Hey there, Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I check this out. I can't believe it. This was $9. I'm a Vise junkie. If you didn't already know that, and I have a lot of different Vices around here. But I saw this on there, and I thought I can actually use that. Two things about this that really made it stand out. First off, it has the quick release that I need, but it also has brass inserts on the top of the jaws, so you can actually adapt your own jaws and put them on here if you want to, which I thought that might actually be handy at times. But it's a nice little size. I do want to mount it on some kind of plate, so when I set it down I can either dog hole it to hold it or put a clamp on it. And I think this would make a nice little addition, just doing little things around here now and then. So anyway, for $9, I just figured I can't go wrong. So anyway, I do have that now, and I thought I would share that with you since I got it. Stay tuned. When I do something with it, I'll let you know and show it to you again what all I did. You know me, I like to have vices. I like this one here I made. I did a video on it a while back. It has a bench dog here, removable, so I can drop it into any bench dog hole and then clamp it down, and it'll pretty much stay put. And it's just a parallel clamp, so that makes it easy for me to still operate and adjust the vise. Anyway, this is a great little vise. I have a post here. This is a T-bolt, and this is a threaded ball, so I can put this down through here, put it down into a hole and tighten it down, so I can actually bolt this down. And there's two locations that I can bolt it down from, so I can actually make this pretty sturdy pretty easily and mount it on a bench in a couple of different ways. Anyway, that's one of my favorites. I keep that right here at hand where I can grab it and use it, because I use that one a lot of times for a quick hold something for a moment while I fix it. And I have two of them, so I could set two of them up and put something in between the two and hold it. So anyway, you know me, if I start talking about vices, I could go on for quite a while. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is that I've been listening to a lot of YouTube lately that about your home backup system. Let's face it, you really do have to have, in today's world, a good backup system. But so many people are just not getting good advice. They try to push you into try to sell you on the idea of a solar generator and a few panels out front, but that has very limited possibilities, and you could run out of power anyway, just 4 hours later than when the power goes off. So if the power is off for any length of time, it could be a real problem for most people. So if you really want a good basic system that you can depend on, but you don't want to really have a bunch of stuff just sitting around, you could go with a moderately small solar generator or build your own with a one or two server rack batteries and an all-in-one inverter, and bada bing bada boom. That's what I did. I just have a 6,000 watt inverter, and I bought 4 batteries. I have 3 on this cart now, so I have 15 kilowatts ready to go. I'm going to add a 4th one to it and make it 20. And I have 2 more batteries that I bought recently, the eco-worthy, because the price on those was so unbelievably cheap. So I bought 2 of those because now I have 30 kilowatts. Those 2 are going to go on a separate cart. I have a 3,000 watt all-in-one, the EG4 of course, and I'll do another cart with that. And then I'm going to put a power cable plug-in, a 175 watt plug-in Anderson, between the two. Use a pretty heavy gauge wire, and so I can actually plug the 2 in together, so that if I want to just run my house, I actually can run it right off of 30 kilowatts of power. Or I can pull the cable off, split them up, use this on one thing, and use the main 20 kilowatt power inverter setup for running the house. I could still run the house on the 20 kilowatts. I just would have to generate more power a little more often. So, but anyway, the biggest problem with the way I listen to most people giving you advice about this, the most important thing you need to know that almost never hear it mentioned. It's the single most important thing. If you're going to design, come up with ideas to make your own power backup of some kind, however you do it. The one thing, everything builds off of one particular fact. How much power do you need in a 24-hour period for your home? And that is very important that you do know that, because everything you do from there will be based on that. And let me show you some examples of it. I'm going to use a couple of theoretical, but I'm also going to use mine. What I did to kind of give you an idea. And you don't have to go as large as I did. That's not what I'm trying to do. But you really need to understand how much power are you going to have to create to have enough power for your home. Because you're going to go into the utility power making business if you lose your power. So, how much power do you really think you're going to have to run if you have to run for 24 hours? And if you have to go for multiple days, every day you have to create that amount of power. Can you do that? And what is that amount? And how quick can you make it? These are things that you have to think about. And it's all based on that one thing. How much power do you need? I did it based on my electric input on my house. And the power company, according to them, over the last 3 years, anyway, I've been studying this 4 years, I average about 25 kilowatt hours a day of power usage as an average. I do have natural gas, so my furnace and my water heater and my stove are all run off of natural gas. So my power consumption isn't very high, and I could actually cut that down quite a bit if I wasn't so wasteful. I always have 2 TVs on all the time, things like that. Anyway, so I based what I was going to build on that 25 kilowatt hours. Now, I also knew that if I go into what I call FOGS mode, forced off-grid survival, if I go into FOGS mode, then I'm actually going to not use my microwave or my air fryer and that sort of thing. I will become more rudimentary on how I do things. Turn lights off, make sure all lights are off unless I absolutely need a light on, that type of thing. So, and I think I can cut it down quite a bit from that 25 kilowatt hours by doing that. So, but I went with 25 just to give me a baseline. You got to have that, because everything you're going to do from there is based on that. How much power storage, and how are you going to create that power? I would say if you're doing a small amount, let's say you're only using 6,000 watts of power in a 24-hour period. There was one gentleman that did a 24-hour test run, and I watched it, and that's what he said he used, but he really was bare minimum. He ran a toaster, and he ran his microwave to cook a couple of frozen things. He had his refrigerator freezer plugged into it for the 24 hours. And in the evening, he ran his TV. So he had a very minimal amount of stuff that he was running. And he managed to use 6 kilowatt hours in a 24-hour period. He had a 4,000 watt solar generator, and he had an inverter generator that he bought. That was I was thinking it was a 2,000 watt generator, but I'm not sure about that. But I listened to him, and he said, and what he said basically to me, what I heard was that he has to create 6,000 watts of power every single day in order to do what he is doing. And hopefully he doesn't need any more than that later on. But it does work. He did that with a 4,000 watt hour solar generator. I think it was the Delta Pro 3 is what he was using. And so he had more than enough power to run everything the way he did. But it was pretty minimalistic, in my opinion. So you got to know how much you're going to pull, though, and how much you're really going to need to create, because you're going to have to make that yourself. So solar is not real practical. You can have solar out there to help take the load off of running your generator, but I would not go with just solar as your main backup power source. It ain't going to work. So I depend on having a good generator that can generate the 25 kilowatt hours that I need to create every single day. In order to do that, I could run my generator 12 hours a day and generate 2,500 watts with a small generator, but I'd have to run it, like I said, I'd have to run it like 10 times a day, 10 hours, just to have enough power. If I could cut that back, it would be better. So you have to think about how much time and how much gasoline and how big a generator do you need to create that generator power to store into your power bank. Now with my system, I knew I was going to go with 25 kilowatts, so I bought a generator. My generator can create 7,000 kilowatts, but you don't want to run it at its full power. And I run this one at, I figured 5,000 is what I figured, watts an hour that I'm going to create. And in that hour, I will use somewhere between a half a gallon to a gallon. I have not done a field test here with it, but from what I've read about this machine and what it gets, it could be anywhere in between there. And what the real world figure will be, it remains to be seen. But let's assume that it's the worst scenario and that I have to run it for an hour to get 5,000 watts to store. That means I'm going to run my generator for 5 hours just to have enough power for tomorrow. And then I have to have a place to put 25 kilowatts of power in order to have enough power to run it for that period of time. So I have mine designed that I'm going to run my generator 2.5 hours in the morning, 2.5 hours in the evening. If I'm running a little behind because I've used a little more than that, in the afternoon running, I can just increase how long I run it without any problem. But I'm not worried about how much battery power I have, and I got to charge it up because it's running low. What I am doing is I've paced myself. I have enough power to run it for the 24 hours, and I have a way to make the next 24 hours of power. So all I have to do is have enough room on those 2.5 hour windows to be able to put 12.5 kilowatts into my battery system. So today I'm going to create all the power I need to put into the battery to be used tomorrow. Today's power was made yesterday. So as long as you keep that in mind, if I'm going to run 25 kilowatt hours a day, I need to create 25 kilowatt hours a day out of my generator, or generator and solar if I have solar. If you want to add solar to it, you can do it. And the more the solar is working on a day like this, yeah, I would get a lot of solar and I wouldn't have to run that generator near as much. That'll save you a lot more. But what you want to avoid, and I hear so many people have done it, where they said that my own brother did it, bless his heart, but he has a generator, I believe. And he just, it comes on automatically, he says, and he runs off his natural gas, and he's happy. But he has to run that 24 hours a day. And wait till he gets his gas bill after that, running that thing for a couple weeks for 24 hours a day. He's going to choke on that one. Anyway, that's nothing to say. The other possibilities, if several people put that generator on their natural gas too in his neighborhood, there's a good chance that there won't be enough gas coming in to supply all those generators 24 hours a day. And he could have runnability problems with that system. I would like to have that, be able to run off of natural gas. If I'm going to be off for a month and my gas is still running, it would be nice to hook up to it rather than having to keep getting gas all the time. But that's down the road. Eventually, I'll probably put a tri-fuel setup on my generator. I can do that for a couple $100. But right now, bare minimum, I need basically 5 gallons of gas for the next day's power every day. As long as I have 5 gallons of gas, at least I have power tomorrow. So that puts me on a schedule where if I keep, right now I keep 15 gallons of gas. So I have basically, I can have 3 to 4 days of power off of the gas I have. Plus, I do have 2 vehicles in the driveway that I keep those tanks pretty full most of the time. And if you know something is coming, you fill them up so that you have the gas if you need it. I can actually siphon the gas off of those pretty easily and take 2/3 of 3/4 of the gasoline out of both tanks. And I could actually accumulate an additional 30 gallons easily enough. That I could run. So I could go quite a long time without having to leave here on the gas that I have on hand. Storing gases can be a pain. Yes, it can be. But what I do is once a year I rotate that gas, and once a year in a certain month every year I take that gas tank and I put what's in it, whatever's in there, and I put it into my vehicle. And then I take that tank and put 15 gallons of fresh gas into it and put it back in the storage shed so that it's there available. And I use that same gas through the year for using the lawnmower. Because my riding mower is still gas operated. So at this point, I do use probably 15 gallons in through the summer months, somewhere close to that. So usually I'm not putting much gas into there to empty that to refill it. But I do like to refill it once a year. And you can do that twice a year. Just take it over when your gas tank is empty and fill the gas tank up with that gas container of gas. Throw it in the back, take it down, fill it back up, and now you got 15 gallons of fresh gas twice a year. It wouldn't be that big a deal. So you just got to make sure you have a plan to rotate your gasoline if you're going to run it on gas. Another quick point, if you're going to run it on gasoline, when you shut it off, learn how to do it properly. It's very important. You don't just shut it down with the switch and shut it off and walk away. What you have to do is run the gas out of the carburetor very easily. They will almost always, if they don't, you can put one on it. Put a cutoff valve. That way, and while it's running, you just shut off the cutoff valve, let the carburetor run out of gas. Once it runs out of gas, then you're good to go to let it sit long term, except for the gas in the gas tank. Now, John Headsmasher Daniel is his that's his name of his channel, but he does a lot of solar generator revamps. He's been tapping into the battery directly. We'll talk about all that later, but one of the episodes he did, if I can remember, I'll try to put it in the description, a link to it, but it was a video about where he took a gas generator and he put a two-way cockpit on it. So actually 3-way, you could shut it off, or you could run it to the carburetor, or you could run it to a hose that came out, and he could put his gas can under there so that when he wanted to shut down the generator, not use it for a while, it's a good idea to drain the gas tank too. And so with that cockpit setup, he's able to do that, because when he's done running the carburetor out of gas, then he turns the valve to the hose and it drains the gasoline out of the gas tank back into some kind of container that you can put back into your gasoline inventory until the next time you're going to run it. So draining your tank is relatively easy, but don't just shut it off by the switch. Shut it off by shutting off the gasoline, and once the thing dies, then you can turn it off, and then drain the gas out of the tank if you put that setup on there. If you're going to use the tank, not drain it, you just want to be able to at least try the way to take out most of the gas in it through some kind of electric pump. Just set it down through the top and drain it out, and then take and put fresh gas in it, and just rotate the gas from your gas tank to a can back and forth every now and then. That way you always have some fresh gas mixed with a little bit of old gas when you do it that way. So you can keep the generator filled, but you do need to rotate the gas in and out of it, just as a safety factor. So yes, it makes more work, but these are just little, usually half-hour projects that you can put on the schedule to do, and then everything will be in tip-top shape if you end up going into FOGS mode. So that's what I kind of do right now. Those are some of the tips I do. As far as the solar generator, obviously, or if you want to build your own, you can build your own like I did. But you need to establish how much power you also are going to need to run whatever it is you're going to run. And you need to know what is possibly the most amount that you're going to have to run. Now, most of the time, I plan on not using my air conditioner. And this is an example. If I run the air conditioning, I can do that with my setup. But if I do, I'm going to go from 5 hours a day running for gasoline to probably 8. Because of the amount of gas I would have to, amount of power extra I would be using, I would need some extra time in order to create that. Probably 15 kilowatt hours in a day, at least, to run my air conditioner. So that means I have to run that generator an additional 3 hours a day. Instead of running 5, now I'm running it 8 hours a day. You want to try to save the wear and tear on your generator, but at the same time, you want a good enough generator you can create without fear all the energy you need during that FOGS period when they take the power away. So anyway, that's just some of the thoughts I had. I've been listening to these guys. Speaking of John Headsmasher Daniel, he also has been lately doing my biggest drawback to solar generators, you don't have direct access to the batteries, and I've always said that whenever I talk about generators. That's why I would rather build my own battery bank than actually buy a pre-rolled one like the solar generator. But he has been going into them, pulling the cases open, finding a point where he can hook up a terminal, 2 cables, positive and negative, right out of the output of the BMS. He hooks up his cables, runs them to an external part on the case, and puts some kind of plug-in on it so that you can directly tap in to the battery and add to it. So, and he's been putting like server rack batteries and other batteries and hooking them up and increasing how much battery capacity it has. They're very interesting. He has a lot of interesting things on his channel. So if you can do a little bit of DIY, it's a good channel to learn some stuff from. But I will tell you, if you're going to add access to the batteries yourself, to a solar battery, that is not for the faint of heart. You really need to know what you're doing to do that. I would do it if I wanted to, if I had a solar generator. But right now, the only things I have is I buy my own batteries and inverters, and I've been putting together my own units. I have a couple of 12-volt ones, and I'm going to have 2 48-volt ones. And all of these are going to be able to, my 12-volt ones, the 2, they're going to be able to join together to really give me one bigger pack. But if I need to, I can pull the smaller pack off and use it somewhere else rather than lugging the whole thing out for whatever it is I need to do. Or if I need to separate them for 2 different tasks, I'll be able to do that with that 12 volt. So we have some good ideas of what we're going to be doing down the road. And I know I've been having it for a long time, but stay tuned because there's things I want to get done. It's not all woodworking anymore, but these are things that you're going to want to use in your everyday life or have around in your everyday life, because a handy system that is 2-in-1 is not a bad way to go. So I'm going to show you how to do that in a 48 volt system and in a 12 volt system, where you have 2 battery systems together, but you can split it apart and have 2 smaller units if you need to do that for some reason. Anyway, these are just ideas that I get, and you know, that's what YouTube is it's just all new, out of the box thinkers doing and showing you some new ideas, or some really smart people showing you how to do something that you didn't know how to do before you watched him do it, or her. So anyway, I want to thank you for coming by. If you're still here, I'm thoroughly impressed. But there's a lot of good ideas in there and helpful hints if you're going to get into doing this, or if you want to improve your system. These are things that you want to think about. But for a home backup system for emergencies, I would not depend on solar. The only reason I would really invest in solar is if I was going to try to cut back and I was going to run on battery backup instead of the grid power more and more, and if I wanted to do that. But there's a lot of work in doing that, so having those solar panels sit around and not working most of the time because I am just pulling off the grid, it's not really worth it to do it. But I am going to probably have solar, and I do have some other ideas, like I do want to run my garage, I think, eventually off-grid. That way, if I'm in the house and the power goes out, all I have to do is flip the couple of switches, and I can start drawing to the house the power from that I use in here in the shop. So it'll make switching that power on and off very easy for you-know-who to do if something ever goes wrong. And I'm not here, she can still turn the power on. So I do want to put the house out of the garage eventually on its own power. Anyway, harebrained ideas galore. I hope you stayed around. I enjoyed talking about it and sharing these ideas of what I think I want to do. And as I get them done, then I'll show you how they look and how they work. So, any questions, any comments, leave them down below. I do read them all and I appreciate it. I do want to thank you for coming by. But most importantly, please come back again because I'm nowhere near done. Thanks, and we'll see you guys again very soon.